إن الحمد لله نحمده حمدا كثيرا طيبا كما يستحق كل ما حمد. هو الذي أرسل رسوله بالهدى ودين الحق وبلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح الأمة وجاهد في الله حق جهاده وترك الأمة على البيضاء ليلها كنهارها نبينا وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد. طيب يا إخوة, we're going to start next chapter inshallah on يوم القيامة. طيب, Shaykhul Islam رحمه said ومن الإيمان باليوم الآخر الإيمان بكل ما أخبر به نبي صلى الله عليه وسلم مما يكون بعد الموت فيؤمنون بفتنة القبر وبعذاب القبر ونعيمه. طيب, let's take one by one. طيب, among ومن بعض, some of the belief regarding يوم الآخر, we have to believe everything that will take place, will happen, or everything that Prophet told us that will take place after death. طيب, so we believe the fitnat al-qabr. We'll go one by one inshallah. What is fitnat al-qabr, and the punishment of the grave, and the blessing of the grave. طيب, we know that our life, their stages are three stages: the dunya, the grave, and the akhirah. And dunya is where we're living now, the first stage, which is stage of worship, stage of actions, good or bad. And Allah Azza wa Jal has placed the believers here to worship Allah. This life is a trial. This life is a action. Okay? So we are in this life, first life, Darul Ard, the stages of life, where we have placed to worship Allah Azza wa Jal. طيب, and we want to talk about this life, ad-dunya. Ad-dunya, the ulama have explained why Allah named ad-dunya. In the Quran, Allah said, وَمَا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا مَتَاعُ الْغُرُورِ. What is the life of this dunya except the life which is deception? Mata' yani, that's something, mata' is comfort which is deceiving. Okay? So Allah Azza wa Jal cursed this life, except hadith says everything in this life is cursed except the one who remembers Allah, the worships Allah, the one who learns the deen and teaches the deen. The exception of these, everything is cursed by Allah Azza wa Jal. This earth is cursed. But at the same time, we have to live on this earth and take the share of it in a way that Allah wants us. So ad-dunya is from the word danwa or danu. Okay? Dana yadnu, meaning, one of the meanings they said dana yadnu mean to become close, because this dunya is close to akhirah. Also, another meaning of dana, dunya, yani something lowly base, something low. There's no value, there's no importance to it. Okay, as Allah said, وَمَنْ حَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا مَتَاعُ الْغُرُورِ. What is the life of dunya except deception? So Allah Azza wa Jal described this dunya something lowly base. That's why Allah said, وَلَلْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ لَكَ مِنَ الْأُولَى. The akhirah better than this life. طيب? So dunya is lowly base. Okay? It's lowly. And the hadith of Prophet ﷺ that once upon a time, Prophet was with a companion, and there was a dead animal, and he was smelling, and Prophet said that, who wants to take this dead animal? Take it free. You don't have to pay anything. Take it. So I was here, also dead, smelling, disgusting. Why would we want to take that? You know? So there's a reason why Prophet said that. He alayhi salam said, the way you detest that animal, the way you dislike the animal, Allah Azza wa Jal dislike this dunya. Okay? If the dunya was value to Allah, Allah will not allow the non-Muslim drink water from it. So this dunya, my brothers, is mal'oon, is dunya because it's lowly base, no value, okay, in the sight of Allah Azza wa Jal. So that's the first stages of our life, ad-dunya. Okay? And the hadith shows how low this dunya is. The second stage of our life is the grave, barzakh. The second stage of our life, which everyone have to eventually go. Okay, and barzakh means ha'ij. Ha'ij is the barrier. So in the Quran Allah said, "Baynahuma barzakhul la yabghiyan." Allah talks about two oceans, the barzakh, the barrier between the two sea. Okay, cannot be avoided. So that's barzakh linguistically. That's what it means, a barrier. So the barrier, so shara'an, when we talk about barzakh, our life, is the grave is a barrier between dunya and akhirah. It's a barrier. Okay? And Allah said, وَمِن وَرَائِهِمْ بَرْزَخٌ إِلَى يَوْمِ يُبْعَثُونَ. So Allah talking about, before this akhirah, there's a barzakh. Until you come to meet Allah Yawmul Qiyamah, which is the grave. Grave is a barzakh for us. Okay? That's the second stage of our life. And in fact, when we are placed in the grave, that's when the day of judgment starts. That's when the day of judgment starts for us, for the person. And the third part of life is the akhirah. As Shaykhul Islam said, وَمِنَ الْإِيمَانِ بِالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرَةِ. Among believing the last day is to believe everything that Prophet told us about after death. That's going to take place. So basically, وَبِالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ. That's one of the name of the last day. The many names are given by Allah Azza wa Jal. One of the day, وَالْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ لَكَ مِنَ الْأُولَى وَالْآخِرَةِ, meaning the last day is better than this life. So one of the Yawmul Akhir, the last day, meaning there's no life after that. So Allah named Yawmul Akhir. Okay. Also it's called Yawmul Hisab, day of reckoning, because this is the day when everyone will be reckoned by Allah Azza wa Jal. Also it is called Yawmul Huzn, day of sorrow. طيب. Yawmul Qiyamah, يوم يقوم الناس لرب العالمين. يوم يقوم الناس لرب العالمين. On the day the people will be standing before their Lord. So يوم القيامة, day of standing. We will not be sitting down, we'll be standing. There'll be no chair given to us to sit. يوم القيامة, day of standing for the hisab. Okay. يوم الأزفة. There's so many. يوم الأزفة, day coming close to Akhirah. طيب. So many names are given in the Quran of that day. Okay? Of that day. So Shaykhul Islam, he named it by Yawmul Akhir. طيب. Now part of believing Yawmul Akhir is that we have to believe everything the Prophet said about that's going to take place after death. So you can't believe some of it and reject some of it. You won't be accepted. Okay, so we have to believe day of Yawmul Ba'ath. That's one of the names given as well. Day of resurrection. You have to believe Jannah wa Nar. Okay, we have to believe Mizan. We have to believe the Sirat. Okay, we have to believe all that. We have to believe all that will take place Yawmul Qiyamah. طيب. So Yawmul Ba'ath. Okay. بعد الموت. So obviously we have to believe the death as well. We have to believe the fitnat al-qabr. Fitnat al-qabr wa bi'adhab al-qabr wa na'imihi. This is part of our Aqeedah, to believe the fitna of the qabr, meaning that the question that will be asked when a person is buried in the grave. Now in the hadith says that innakum tuftuna fil qabr. Indeed, you will be tried in the grave. Okay. Now, everybody who passes away, are placed in the grave, will be asked these three questions. Now, the hadith of Bara bin Azib, long hadith. It's a long hadith that it teaches us that every person who is placed in the grave will be asked these three questions. Okay? The three questions, the first question is, Man Rabbuk? Waman Nabiyuk? Oma Dinuk? Waman Nabiyuk? The first question will be asked is that, Man Rabbuk? Okay? So let's okay, and then the questioner will ask the Munkar and Nakir, who is your Lord? Okay, he will say, my Lord is Allah. Okay, and the righteous man, and then he will be asked, what's your religion? Islam. And then he will be asked, who's your prophet? He will say, my prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that's how it's going to be. It's a hadith of Bara bin And Allah mentioned in the Quran, اتخذوا أحبارهم ورهبانهم أربابا من دون الله. اتخذوا, to the Jews and the Christians, they have taken their ahbar, the scholars, evil scholars, and the monks, Lord beside Allah Azza wa Jal. Now, here arbab is plural of Rabb. So what it means, the ulama says, they've taken arbab, yani they've taken aliha, ilah beside Allah. What happened there? Because when Prophet recited this ayah, Adi bin Hatim was a Jew, and he became Muslim. Then he heard the ayah Prophet reciting. He said, okay, Rasulullah, he's Muslim. He said, but Ya Rasulullah, when we're in Jahiliyyah, when I was a Jew, we did not worship them. We did not worship these monks. But he said, yes. He thought worship means making sajda and ruku to them, making dua to them. He said, no, you didn't do that. But when they made halal into haram, haram into halal, did you not follow them in that? He said, yes. So that's your worship to them. You worship them. So this arbab, Rab mean here, they've taken God beside Allah. And Allah or ilah beside Allah Azza wa Jal. Meaning they worship them in that sense, because if a ruler does that, halal, he makes halal into haram, haram into halal, and we say, no, we're going to follow him in that. We have taken Allah beside Allah. We have taken Lord mean the Allah. Okay? So here Shaykh Saleh mentions that Man Rabbuk, Rabbi Allah. Rabb here means the Lord, but it means that the one who deserves to be worshipped alone. It signifies worship side. That's what it is. So here the believer will say, my Lord is Allah, my Islam is my religion, and Muhammad is our prophet. So the believer will say that. That is, if the believer lived his life firmly, worshipped Allah Azza wa Jal, follow Quran and Sunnah, the person will answer the question like that, without any problem. وَأَمَّا الْمُرْتَابِ, as for the one who did not worship Allah, lived a life of disobedience, lived a life of doubt, not believing Allah properly, the Islam properly, did not believe Muhammad properly, okay, he will say, ha, ha. Ha, ha is a sound of pain. La adri, I don't know. I heard people say it and I said it like that. Okay? So this is a sign of a disbeliever. The disbeliever will say this. Okay? And he will not able to answer it, because he lived his life not having faith in these things. He lived his life not having faith in Allah, in Islam, without having faith in Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So that person will be, what's going to happen to him now? The hadith, as we say, Bara bin Azib, فَيُضْرَبْ بِمِرْذَبَةٍ مِنْ حَدِيدٍ. He will be strike with hadid. Okay? The hadith explains that he will be struck so much, his head will come open and go back again. It's going to be like that. He will be punished. Now, this hadith shows two things. That everyone will be questioned. It's not only every person, Muslim, non-Muslim, will be questioned these three questions, and no one will be excused from that. And as for the believers who will answer it, okay, they'll be rewarded. Now, if non-Muslim, punishment in the grave are different levels. Okay. Adab al-Qabr takhtalif between the people. For the non-Muslims, it's continuous. Okay, the torture will continue. As for the Muslims, a fasiq, a sinner, okay, if he's tortured, he'll be tortured for some time in the grave, and then if Allah wants to stop the punishment, he'll stop the punishment. And if he wants to continue the punishment until Yawm al-Qiyamah, Allah can do that. But punishment can be stopped. Only for a believer. He's a person of Tawheed. Maybe he's getting tortured for something he didn't make tawbah from. Okay? So he can be tortured for a short time in the grave. Allah can forgive him. And then his punishment will be removed from him. Right? As for these people who doubt in the deen of Allah, non-Muslim, their torture will remain in the grave. And what to come is the worst. Uthman radiallahu anhu, okay, radiallahu anhu, he used to go to the grave, and hadith in Tirmidhi, and he will weep. And the Sahaba will say that when Jahannam was reminded to you, you don't cry like this. So why is that you crying when it comes to the grave? He said, verily I heard Messenger of Allah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that this is the first manazil, the first thing before Yawm al-Qiyamah. Okay, before you go to Yawm al-Qiyamah, this is where you're going to be. Okay, you have to die and you have to be placed in the grave. He said, if you protect yourself from that, if you're safe from that grave, what will come after is easy. But if you can't save yourself from that grave, what will come is more worse. So I'm crying. Okay? So we have to pass the grave before the Yawm al-Qiyamah. So Uthman radiallahu anhu, Hassan, Shaykh al-Albani makes it Hassan, and this is authentic, and Uthman would cry a lot when he would go to the grave. So here hadith says that believers will answer it very easily. As for the murtab, someone who was doubtful, then he will not able to answer it. He will be tortured. He will be punished. فَيَسِيحُ صَيْحَةً يَسْمَعُهَا كُلَّ شَيْءٍ إِلَّا الْإِنسَانِ. Now this torture in the grave is heard by the animals. You know, some animals, when they go to the grave, they come back. They can't stay there. Literally they don't, because they can hear the punishment of the grave. Okay, everything will hear the punishment, the adhab al-qabr. Everybody will hear it except the human being. And the hadith said that if a human being were to hear the adhab al-qabr, or to see or to know, whatever, something like that, they will not bury the deceased. So people will not able to hear the punishment, but the animals hear the punishment. What if we were to hear the punishment of the grave? La sa'iqa. Okay? La sa'iqa, he will die. Okay? Yamut. That's how bad it is. ثم بعد هذا الفتنة إما النعيم وإما العذاب. So here Shaykhul Islam explaining the stages of the grave. Okay? In the grave, if you pass the test, you'll be rewarded, and if you fail the test, then person will be tortured. So some of the opinions, when the hadith says إنكم يفتنون في القبور, you'll be tried in the grave. قال طائفة من أهل العلم إن الفتنة القبر تقع على المسلم ومنافق دون كافر أما الكافر فإنه لا يفتن. That some of the scholars says that the question in the grave only for the Muslims and the munafiq. As for the kafir, no, he's kafir. Khalas, he's going to be, torture will start. Okay. As for kafir, there is no fitna for him, no question for him. Ibn Abdul Bar, Imam Ibn Abdul Bar fi Tamheed. In Tamheed, he says that Ibn Abdul Bar is from Spain, one of the great scholars of the past, Maliki. He said, Al-Athar ثابتة في هذا الباب إنما تدل على أن الفتنة في القبر لا تكون إلا لمؤمن أو منافق ممن كان في الدنيا منسوبا إلى أهل القبلة ودين الإسلام ممن حقن دمه بظاهر الشهادة. So Shaykh Ibn Abdul Bar says there are reports, confirmed report, authentic source says that regarding this, that the fitna, the question in the grave will be for nobody except for the believers and the munafiqun. Munafiqun who those who attribute themselves to Islam, okay, people Ahl Qibla, okay, who lived according to the Shahada. So the munafiqun and Muslim, they will be questioned this question will take place on them. وأما الكافر الجاهد, okay, فليس ممن يسأل عن ربه ودينه ونبيه. As for kafir, well, kafir is kafir, isn't he? He's not Muslim. What's the point asking him? He's kafir anyway. So kafir who denied the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal, rejected the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal, never believed it, never believed Allah and His Messenger and Islam, they will not be asked about who is your Lord, what's your religion, and who is your Prophet. Kufa will not be asked. That's one of the opinion. Okay? وَإِنَّمَا يُسْأَلُ عَنْ هَذَا أَهْلُ الْإِسْلَامِ. Only people who will be asked are people of Islam. So munafiqun maybe who came to be Muslim, they showed I'm believers, they said Shahada la ilaha illallah, they live their life like a Muslim, they'll be asked. A Muslim who worships Allah, they'll be asked. Okay? And only Allah knows the heart. May Allah protect from murtab, any form of fitna. As for the kuffar who declared they're kuffar, never believed it, like we see in our time. We know they're kuffar, they don't affirm Islam. For these people, there's no question for them. There's no need for to ask them questions. They're non-Muslim anyway. So this is one of the opinions of some scholars. But Jumhur says the asah, the most authentic opinion is that everybody will be asked. As Hazrat Bara bin Azib, they will say, ha, pain. La adri, I don't know. سمعته الناس يقول فقلته, I heard people say, so I said it. Shows that even non-Muslim will be asked. So this is the opinion Ibn Abdul Bar mentions in Tamheed. Some of the scholars have the opinion. We don't know what the evidence is. But evidence says everybody going to be asked. Everybody going to be asked. The hadith of Bara bin Azib, which is in Musnad Ahmed and Sunan Abi Dawood. Moving on, inshallah. Now the next one is Shaykhul Islam talks about after having said after this fitna, okay, either you rewarded or you are punished. Okay, so you in the grave you are rejoicing or you experience adhab al-qabr, yadu billah. Now after this barzakh, now Shaykhul Islam says, now he's going stage by stages now. إلى أن تقوم الكبرى. إلى أن تقوم القيامة الكبرى, until you major standing. So here we say that يوم القيامة, because you'll be standing in front of your Lord. Then he says وتعاد أرواح إلى أجساد. So now you are in the grave, facing toward يوم القيامة. Your ruh will come to your body. Allah Azza wa Jal will send your ruh to your body. So we're going to talk about blowing of the trumpet now. Okay? So now, when we're placed in the grave, we're eaten by the earth, isn't it? We are eaten by the earth. And what happened is that then you're raised. You're raised for the ba'ath, Yawmul Qiyamah. Now, as for the ba'ath, we believe it, as Shaykhul Islam says, to believe, the last day to believe the resurrection, okay? You have to believe everything the Prophet said about Yawmul Qiyamah, okay? Jannah wa Nar, resurrection, the Sirat, you have to believe everything. If to disbelieve one of them, person out of hold of Islam. If someone says, I believe everything, but I don't believe in Mizan, you're kafir. If someone says, I believe everything, but I don't believe the Sirat, you're not a Muslim. Because these are all confirmed in the Quran and Sunnah. We have to believe it. So what happens is that when a person's in the grave, okay, we'll talk about the trumpet inshallah, Allah Azza wa Jal will send down the rain. And Shaykh mentioned the hadith is that 40 morning, 40 sabahan, 40 days, say 40 days. 40 days it will rain. And that rain is not the rain we see nowadays. The hadith describes is that rain will be very white, is thick as a semen, sperm of a man, and it's going to be very heavy, and that will be raining for 40 days on the earth. And that will go inside the grave, and from that, by the will of Allah, Allah will say to the body which was scattered, the bone, come back again. Come back together by the will of Allah. And it will come back together again. Okay? And thus they're going to resurrect. Okay? But let's talk about the nufikha fi sur, the blowing of the trumpet. Okay? Blowing of the trumpet. Tayyib. So, when we talk about trumpet, the blowing of the trumpet, how many trumpets are there? Some of the scholars said 2, some says 3. Shaykhul Islam ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Qayyim said there are 3 blowing of the trumpet. Okay? The first blowing of the trumpet is that when trumpet is blown, everybody will be fafazi an-nas. The people will be out in terror. Okay? As Allah said in the Quran, Surah An-Naml 87, يوم ينفخ في الصور ففزع من في السماوات ومن في الأرض إلا من شاء الله. Okay, وَيَوْمَ يُنْفَخُ فِي الصُّورِ. On that day, when the trumpet will be blown, فَفَزِعَ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ. And everybody in the heaven and the earth will be shocked, out terror, fear, except those whom Allah will. Maybe the believers won't be. Allah knows best. Okay? So here, faza means fear. So first stage of the trumpet, it's going to be fear, terror. ثُمَّ نَفْخَةُ الصَّعْقِ. The second one is sa'q. And the hadith is mentioned that وَنُفِخَ فِي الصُّورِ فَصَعِقَ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ إِلَّا مَا شَاءَ اللَّهُ ثُمَّ نُفِخَ فِيهِ أُخْرَى فَإِذَا هُمْ قِيَامٌ يَنْظُرُونَ. Surah Zumar 68. And the trumpet will be blown. فَصَعِقَ. The ulama says sa'iqa mean mata, will die. Everyone in the heaven and the earth will die, except whom Allah will. They say Hurul Ain, the Malaika, they will not die. Okay? So that's the second one, yeah? They will die. فَصَعِقَ. The third one is the ثُمَّ نُفِخَ فِيهِ أُخْرَى. The third one, then the trumpet will be blown again. Then they will be standing, يَنْظُرُونَ. From where? The grave. They will be standing from the grave, looking. On that day, when everyone come up, everybody believe in Allah. Everybody believe in the Day of Judgment. Believers will be saved. As for those atheists, live their life as a doubtful person, never believed, they will have Iman, but it's too late. It's not possible having Iman now. It's time for judgment. Hisab. Tayyib. So, what is قول الراجح? The ثلاثة نفخات وهو الذي رجحه شيخ الإسلام وابن القيم جماعة من المحققين. And this is the authentic opinion, authenticated by Shaykhul Islam ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn al-Qayyim. There will be 3 trumpet. Those is a two trumpet. They said nafakha, fazi'a and sa'iqa is same thing. It's not much different. Fazi'a, then the sa'iqa will come straight away. Okay, so it's in one trumpet. But no, Allah separate them. Okay, Allah separate those 3 stages. Okay, فَفَزِعَ. Okay, فَسَعِقَ. Okay, so Allah separate these fear and the death. And okay, so the 3 trumpets will be blown on the Day of Judgment. So we'll be standing, the ruh will come back to the body. Okay, so the next stage is Shaykhul Islam brings is that. Okay, so we're coming now, yeah? So now imagine, you got to imagine this. It's going to come to reality anyway. So now imagine everybody will be raised from their grave. And the hadith said the first person who will be raised from the grave is Prophet ﷺ. Okay, the first person who will raise his head is Prophet ﷺ, and his grave will be cracked open first, and he will come up before everyone. Now, so وَتَقُومُ الْقِيَامَةِ الَّتِي أَخْبَرَ اللَّهُ بِهَا فِي كِتَابِهِ. So the Qiyamah will take place, which Allah has mentioned in His book, وَعَلَى لِسَانِ رَسُولِهِ, and what He told us upon the tongue of His Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم, وَأَجْمَعَ عَلَيْهَا الْمُسْلِمُونَ فَيَقُومُ النَّاسِ مِنْ قُبُورِهِمْ لِرَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ حُفَةً عُرَةً غُرُلًا. Now here it describes how the Day of Judgment will take place, how people will be raised Yawm al-Qiyamah. So people will be raised from their grave, and obviously they're buried with the white cloth. That will not remain. So Hadith explains, يُحْشَرُ النَّاسِ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ حُفَةً عُرَةً غُرُلًا, that on that day people will be raised. Okay, Hufa means barefooted. Okay, they're barefooted. And Ura means naked, they have no clothes on, and Ghurla, uncircumcised. Now, this shows the way we're born, the way we were given birth, exactly we'll be raised Yawm al-Qiyamah, exactly the same thing. We're born naked, no clothes on, no were barefooted. So exactly the way we were given birth would be raised Yawmul Qiyamah like that. طيب. Now, one Prophet said this hadith, that mankind will be raised Yawmul Qiyamah barefooted, uncircumcised, and naked. Aisha radiallahu anha said that won't the people be looking at one another, male and female, naked? Won't they be looking at one another, Ya Rasulullah? He said, Ya Aisha, al-amru hina idin ashad an yanzur ba'dhum ila ba'd. Oh Aisha, Aisha doesn't know. She's learning. The Prophet was shown Yawmul Qiyamah in a dream. Allah showed him what's going to happen. All this hadith is how it's going to actually take place. Prophet has shown that. He's seen that. So he said to Aisha radiallahu anha, Ya Aisha, matter is worse than people looking at one another. The matter is worse than that. This is nothing. This hadith, that hadith shows how severe going to be akhirah. Being naked in dunya, walking down the road, if you rather burn in the house and not go out naked. May Allah protect us, if somebody's house is burning, he's got nothing to wear, he's not going to go out. He's going to stay there, I'll rather burn. I'm not going to go out naked. That's a huge thing, to go out naked. But that huge thing, Yawmul Qiyamah, is minute. Because there's something else will make them forget about that. Subhanallah. Ya Aisha, al-amrun azim, an yanzur ba'dhum ila ba'd. Matter is greater than that. There's something greater than this, than being naked in front of each other. It's nothing. It's not a problem. The people are worried about whether they're going to Jannah or Nar. I might be burning in the hell. I'm talking about I'm naked. Forget about I'm being naked. I want to save myself from hellfire. That's the important thing. So, Prophet told Aisha, the matter is worse. This is nothing. Don't worry about this. So the worst thing is Jannah wa Nar. Going to hellfire is worse than being naked. So the hadith shows how bad the situation is going to be. If something going to make you forget you're naked, subhanallah, that shows that there's severity, something else there, making us forget about this. So so what's going to happen is that people will be standing in front of their Lord, okay, Yawmul Qiyamah, like this, barefooted, naked, and uncircumcised. Okay, that's the hal of the people going to be on that day. So they're up from the grave naked. Many things going to happen. Okay, Shaykhul Islam bring one of the stages is that وَتَدْلُو مِنْهُمُ الشَّمْسِ. The moon will be, the sun will be brought down. وَيُلْجِهُمُ الْعَرَقِ فَتُنْسَبُ الْمَوَازِينَ فَتُوذَنُ بِأَعْمَالُ الْعِبَادِ. So here we learn is that when the Day of Judgment starts, what's going to happen is that the mizan, or the sun will be brought down by Allah Azza wa Jal. The hadith is 1 mile above the head. Okay? 1 mile above the head, the sun will come down. And now, obviously, when this heat, we understand when we go to Middle East, Umrah, Hajj, how hot it is. We want cold drink, we want, shade, we want so many things. Subhanallah, on that day there will be no shade except the shade Allah will give. Okay? The sun going to come and they're going to be sweating. Okay? And this sweat that's going to come, the believers, when they go through the difficulties, Yawmul Qiyamah, okay, the sin will be forgiven. Those difficulties. Believers' sin will be removed. Even those believers who get punished in the grave, and Allah remove the punishment, even their sin will be expiated because of that. Okay? So the sun will be brought forward 1 mile above the head, okay? And people will be drowning in their own sweat. And the sweat will be different among the people. Some will be drowning totally, some will be up to their neck, some up to the shoulder, some up to their belly button, some up to their knees, some, based on their good deed and bad deed, the sweat will go. Okay, if somebody is a righteous man, maybe sweat will go up to the ankle, maybe. If he's a sinner, fast, yadu billah, he may be drowning his own sweat. طيب? So, yuljihul araq, the sweat will overpower him. And that's overpowering is different level. Okay? So, that's one is going to happen, okay? This is going to take place. Fatunsabul mawazin. Then the mizan, mawazin, plural of mizan. وتوزن به الأعمال عباد. So mizan and mawazin. The ulama says this word is mentioned in the Quran. How many is there mawazin? When Allah said, it comes in single and plural. Allah said, فمن ثقلت موازينه فأولئك هم المفلحون ومن خفت موازينه فأولئك الذين خسروا أنفسهم في جهنم خالدون. That whoever's mizan, mawazin, the balance is heavier, then he will be successful. As for the mawazin, the mizan, the balance is less, he will be the loser on the day of judgment and he will be abiding in the hellfire. So Allah mentioned the word mizan in the hadith. Prophet mentioned in the hadith, kalimatan habibatan ila rahman, khafifatan ala lisan, thaqilatan ala al-mizan. Two words, most beloved to ar-Rahman, okay, and it's very light on the tongue, but heavy on the mizan. Subhanallah bihamdi, subhanallah azim. That's the dua. But Prophet mentioned mizan. So mawazin and mizan comes in the hadith in the Quran. So how many is there mizan for every ummah, every prophet, and their ummah is being judged on that, and their action being balanced on those mizan, or is it one mizan that everybody uses? Okay. Some says every ummah will have a mizan, every nation will have a mizan, and their nation will, the action will be balanced on their own mizan. Most authentic opinion is that Safarani and others says that Safarini that mizan is the only one mizan, okay, and that mizan will be used for every ummah, for every prophet, every followers, Musa, Isa, Nuh, every prophet, their ummah action will be balanced on that mizan, but everybody will take turn. So once a mawazin meaning that one mizan, but lot of action being balanced. That's what it is. Okay. So if I have one mizan, so everyone, so imagine all of you have a pound there. I've got one machine. I'm using one machine for all of you. That's how it's going to be. Tayyib, and that's most authentic opinion. One mizan, and that mizan has a hand, basically like that. Okay, we know how it looks like, but it has two hands, and their good deed and bad deed will be weighed on that mizan. طيب? And we believe this part of Aqeedah, mizan is part of Aqeedah. You go to Tahawiyah, talks about mizan. Every book talks about mizan because part of Aqeedah, Allah mentions about mizan. طيب? And a balance will be balanced on that. So the a'mal, فَتُوذَنُ بِأَعْمَالِ الْعِبَادِ, the action of the believers will be balanced on that mizan. Even the person will be balanced as well. The person himself physically will be balanced on the mizan. Like the ulama use this hadith of Abdullah al-Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, when he was climbing the tree and the people looked at his leg and they were laughing. He had a very thin leg. And the Prophet said, "Are you laughing at his leg? His leg is more heavy than Mountain Uhud, because he fought in the path of Allah. He'd be heavy, his body, his leg is more heavier than the Mountain Uhud on the balance, meaning it's weighed. Okay, so show the action of a person, he himself, his body will be balanced as well. طيب, يا إخوة, we leave it now. Okay, جزاكم الله خير. We'll talk about the record book and all that next week. Any question, inshallah, I'll try to come 7 o'clock next week. Any question? Go on.
So you know how we know that the people that didn't receive the message of Islam, on the day of judgment, you get their own test.
Okay.
What about in the grave?
The people who have never been tested in the grave, or never been received to them the Islam, okay, people living in Amazon, whatever, they never heard about Islam, then we know that the hadith, Yawm al-Qiyamah, that they will be given prophet to them to believe. If they believe it, they'll be saved. If they don't, they'll be punished. But as for in the grave, maybe they'll not. Maybe they'll not be tested. Allahu alam. Because out of justice, Allah will not. Because the deen hasn't reached them. So they will be tested Yawm al-Qiyamah. But hadith doesn't talk about in the grave. Allahu alam. But in Akhirah, they will be tested. Allah will test them by sending a prophet. That's what we know.
You know the people that pass their test in the grave, will they get shade on their judgment?
The people pass their test in the grave. Believers will. The hadith talks about 7 type of people will get shade Yawm al-Qiyamah, and they're the believers. They're the believers, and they'll get shade. Those believers will get shade Yawm al-Qiyamah. Yeah, no doubt about that. Yeah, believers, and these believers, Allah mentioned the hadith. Inshallah, yeah, believers.
Those who are dead in the graves, do they like ever know what's going on in the dunya, or do they have any like information?
No.
Like, where do they like
The people in the grave, okay, they're dead, obviously, and kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut, every soul must taste death. So once they experience death, they are dead. They are not alive anymore. Okay, so if a believer, for example, a righteous person in the grave is rewarded, he might be eaten away by the earth, but his soul, hadith says, is in Jannah, the soul, his soul in the belly of a green bird in Jannah, roaming around in Jannah. Okay, so they don't feel anything. Obviously, the person in the grave, they're dead. They don't feel, they don't hear anything. They're dead. Khalas. We know that. Even the Prophet. Now, Prophet ﷺ, obviously, he can't hear you in the grave. He can't hear you. He cannot help you. He cannot protect you. But hadith says that when you give salam, the ruh, Allah sends the ruh back to him and he responds to your salam. But deceased don't. It doesn't matter how righteous they are, they cannot hear you in the grave because they are dead, as Allah describes in the Quran. They cannot hear you. They cannot benefit you. Okay? So no, they don't hear. The dead don't hear. But Shaykhul Islam mentions that sometime, what happens? The righteous, the people go to the Quburiyun, when they go to worship the righteous in the grave. Okay? We covered in Kashf Shubuhat, and what happened is that they go to the grave and they speak to who was the righteous person is, and he responds. You know what Shaykhul Islam says? He says it's because Iblis is there talking to you, not the righteous man. He's dead. Iblis talks to you. Says, I spoke to the righteous man. A'udhu billah. So they get deceived by Iblis. Tayyib. So that's what happens. So dead don't hear. Dead cannot benefit you, harm you. Doesn't matter how righteous they are. Yes. No, Prophet Islam.
Does that mean even a believer who sinned his entire life, he's gonna pass the questions and?
Yeah, doesn't matter. Everybody will be questioned on the day of judgment. In the grave, everyone going to be questioned.
No,
Yes.
He asked, will they pass? He asked.
Pass.
He asked, will all believers pass?
Believers will be passed, but to pass the test, you have to do righteous action, isn't it? If a Muslim dies, if someone never worshipped Allah in his life, then you could question is he Muslim or not a Muslim. That's the thing. And maybe he will not be punished. He might be punished in the grave because he haven't done the righteous action. He never worshipped Allah Azza wa Jal. Illa ma rahim Allah. Tayyib. So if he knew that he should have worshipped Allah, if he knew that he needed to practice the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal, and he did make tawbah from his sin, then Allahu Alam. Allah knows the best, but it's dangerous. So even if he's Muslim, he can be tortured in the grave. And Prophet mentioned a hadith that 2 people are getting tortured in the grave. So no one is free from the adhab. Okay, even you're a believer, you can be punished in the grave, even for a short time. Allah knows best. Yeah.
Is it true, like in the barzakh, people meet each other like families and stuff like that? I heard something like that, but I don't know if it's...
Not when Ibn al-Qayyim mentions that when people go to sleep is a form of death, and the ruh comes out. The ruh beats the ruh. It goes up in it. So if the ruh doesn't come down, khalas, you're dead. So ruh goes up, isn't it? Yeah. Inna nahnu lahiqun bikum. So the death will coming to catch you, meet you, and all that. Yeah.
So as you said, when the person is asleep, if it's brother of death, so the ruh may meet the deceased.
Yeah, you can.
So through that, do the deceased know sometimes what's going on in the earth?
No, the deceased will never know. Like when our ruh goes up, do we feel anything? Can we? No, it's like that. It's like that. Yeah. The ruh goes up here. It goes ruh. Yeah. It leaves us.
Does reading Surah Al-Mulk every night protect you from the punishment of the grave?
Yeah, this hadith authentic, but we got to understand that just reading this hadith, Surah Mulk go to sleep, but for Fajr. It's snoring away. Don't pray 5 times a day. You got to take the right procedures. Yeah, for you to get the safe from the grave punishment, you have to do other stuff as well. If someone just reads Surah Mulk, but doesn't practice his deen, doesn't pray 5 times a day, never makes tawbah, how is that going to help him? It's not going to help him. But you have to practice your deen. You read that Mulk, yes. We have to other stuff as well, as well, to save ourselves from grave punishment. Yeah, it's not enough just reading that.
No, Allah says وَلَا تَقُولُوا لِمَن يُقْتَلْ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتٌ بَلْ أَحْيَاءٌ. So what does it mean that they're alive?
Okay, those who die in the shuhada, the one who died in the path of Allah, shuhada, do not sit there dead, but they're alive. Now, the hadith says that the two types of people, when they're buried, their body is not eaten by the earth. The Anbiya, the Prophet body, not only Rasulullah, Prophet's body are preserved in the grave. And they're saved from the grave punishment. They're Anbiya, they're protected. They're guaranteed Jannah, and they're guaranteed from the grave punishment. They're protected. The body is protected, preserved. Anbiya and the Shuhada, and those who die in the path of Allah. Their body also protected. Their body is not eaten by the earth. But the Ahya, what does it mean? They can talk to you, they eat and drink. La. Their body is intact, meaning that the body is not eaten by the earth. The body is not eaten by the earth. So in that sense they are. It's not like they are alive like us. No, they're dead, but the body hasn't the body is not rotten by the earth. Cannot touch, the earth cannot eat their body. That's what it is. Yeah. If you give them salam, they're not going to listen to you. They can't hear you, but the body is perfect the way it is. The shuhada, yeah.
I came across a long time ago that the ruh of the shuhada is the one that goes into a bird and flies around in Jannah.
Yeah.
But you mentioned it's any believer.
Now, any believer, ruh of not only shuhada, ruh of a righteous man, their ruh goes in the belly of the green bird. Yeah.
Also, you mentioned someone who's doubtful, he'll get punished in the grave, right?
Doubt depends. The different level of doubt. Doubt. If doubt just comes like this, it doesn't mean he's a kafir. It may be shaitan creating the doubt. Doubt is something murtab, doesn't believe it. No, definitely I'm doubting, but I don't believe God exists. I don't believe Islam. That's what we're talking about. That's kafir, isn't it? But there's another type of doubt. What Prophet mentioned in Sahih Bukhari, that Iblis come to create doubt in you. You say, A'udhu Billah. A'udhu Billah. This is something, yeah, that's different. Yeah. Okay, إخوة. جزاكم الله خير. السلام عليكم.